The grease under my fingernails told the story of another 12-hour day installing security systems for paranoid rich folks. I owned DataGuard Security, a small company that kept me busy enough to pay the mortgage on our fixer-upper in Millfield's old neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but honest work that let me sleep at night. That was before I found Emily sobbing on our living room floor. "Jake, thank goodness you're home." She rushed into my arms, mascara streaking down her cheeks like black rivers. "Someone broke in. They attacked me." My stomach dropped. The lamp by the couch lay shattered, family photos scattered across the hardwood floor. Emily's designer blouse was torn at the shoulder, her hair disheveled. "Are you hurt? Did you call the police?" I held her at arm's length, checking for injuries. "I already called them. Jake, it was Pete." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. "Pete? My Pete?" He came in through the back door while I was working on design sketches. Said terrible things about you, about us. When I tried to run, he grabbed me and... She dissolved into fresh tears. Pete Morrison had been my best friend since high school. He ran Morrison's auto body 3 blocks away. He fixed our cars for free, came to every barbecue. The guy who'd been best man at our wedding, who'd helped me carry Emily over the threshold of this very house 5 years ago. "Emily, that's impossible. Pete would never..." "I know what I saw." Her voice cracked with hysteria. "He said you owed him money, that he was going to take it out on me if you didn't pay up. Jake, I was so scared." Red and blue lights flashed through our front window. 2 patrol cars pulled up, and I recognized Detective McNally's unmarked sedan behind them. McNally and I had worked together on several commercial security installations for the city. "Mrs. Patterson?" The first officer, a young guy with earnest eyes, stepped through our front door. "I'm Officer Rodriguez. You called about an assault?" Emily nodded, pointing toward the back of the house. "He came in through the kitchen door, Pete Morrison from the auto shop on Elm Street. My husband knows him." McNally appeared in the doorway, his weathered face grim. "Jake, heard there was trouble." "This is insane, Detective. Pete's been like a brother to me for 20 years. He wouldn't hurt a fly, let alone Emily." "We'll sort it out," McNally said. "Right now, we need to process the scene and get Mrs. Patterson's statement." While the officers photographed the damage and dusted for prints, I excused myself to check something. My security cameras covered every angle of the house. Front door, back door, living room, kitchen. If Pete had really broken in, I'd have it all on digital video. The footage made my hands shake. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Emily was alone in the living room at 3:47 p.m. working on her laptop. At 3:52, she stood up, walked to the lamp, and knocked it over herself. She scattered the photos, messed up her hair, and tore her own blouse. Then she sat on the floor and waited. At 4:15, Pete's truck pulled into our driveway. He knocked on the front door, called out that he was returning Emily's car keys after fixing her transmission. When no one answered, he left the keys on the porch and drove away. Emily never screamed, Pete never entered the house. My wife had staged the entire thing. "Find anything useful?" McNally appeared behind me in my home office. I stared at the computer screen, my mind racing. Why would Emily frame Pete? What possible reason could she have? "Jake?" "The cameras malfunctioned," I heard myself say. "Storm last week must have damaged the hard drive." McNally frowned. "That's convenient. I'll have them repaired tomorrow. Maybe we'll recover something." But I wouldn't repair anything. Not yet. First, I needed to understand what game Emily was playing and why my best friend was her target. After the police left with Emily's statement and a promise to bring Pete in for questioning, I sat alone in the wreckage of our living room. Emily had gone upstairs to rest, claiming exhaustion from her ordeal. If dishonesty were an Olympic sport, my wife could coach the national team. I'd suspected something was off for months. Late nights at her interior design studio, secretive phone calls, new clothes that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. But I'd chalked it up to her business growing, her social circle expanding beyond my blue-collar world. Now I wondered what else I'd been blind to. My phone buzzed. "Pete." "Jake, what the heck is going on? Cops just dragged me down to the station. They're saying Emily accused me of breaking into your house?" "I know. It's crazy." "Crazy? It's insane. I was fixing her car this afternoon, dropped off the keys, and went back to the shop. Asked Tony. He was with me the whole time." "Pete, I believe you." "Then why didn't you tell the cops that?" I couldn't explain without revealing Emily's deception, and I wasn't ready for that conversation, not until I understood her motives. "They'll figure it out. McNally's a good detective. Jake, Emily's your wife, but something's not right here. I've never seen her look at me with anything but barely disguised contempt. Why would she suddenly claim I attacked her? That was the million-dollar question. Pete was released after 6 hours of questioning. Tony Castellano, his business partner, confirmed Pete's alibi, and the lack of physical evidence made the charges impossible to pursue. But damage was done. Word spread through Millfield like wildfire. Pete Morrison, the trusted mechanic, accused of attacking a woman in her own home. I watched my best friend's reputation crumble while my wife played the victim with Academy Award-worthy performance. I just don't feel safe with him walking free, Emily told her mother over coffee in our kitchen. Joan Fletcher had driven up from Boston the moment she heard about the attack, bringing enough drama to power a small theater. "Sweetheart, maybe you and Jake should consider moving," Joan said, shooting me a look that suggested I was personally responsible for Pete's existence. "This neighborhood clearly isn't safe anymore." "We've lived here for 5 years without incident," I pointed out. "Until yesterday," Emily sniffled. "I keep seeing his face, hearing his threats." The performance was flawless. If I hadn't seen the security footage, I'd have believed every word. That evening, I drove to Morrison's auto body. Pete was working late, as usual, hunched over the engine of a Ford pickup. The shop smelled of motor oil and honest work, a sharp contrast to the perfumed lies filling my house. "How are you holding up?" Pete straightened, wiping his hands on a greasy rag. "Been better. Lost 3 customers today. Mrs. Henderson called to cancel her tune-up, said she didn't feel comfortable bringing her car here anymore." "Pete, I'm sorry." "Are you?" His eyes were hard. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you threw me under the bus pretty quick. I told the cops you didn't do it. After your wife pointed her finger at me. Jake, we've been friends for 20 years. You know I'd never hurt Emily, no matter how much she looks down on me." That was the thing. Emily had always treated Pete with cold politeness, the way wealthy people acknowledge the help. She'd never shown fear of him, never suggested he made her uncomfortable. "Why do you think she'd accuse you?" Pete set down his tools and leaned against the workbench. "That's what I've been wondering. The only interaction I've had with Emily lately was fixing her car. And Jake, there's something you should know about that." My pulse quickened. "What?" "Her transmission wasn't broken. She brought the car in last week claiming it was making noise, but I couldn't find anything wrong. Ran every diagnostic I could think of. The car was perfect. Maybe the noise stopped. Or maybe she needed an excuse to leave her car somewhere for a few hours." The implications hit me like a physical blow. Emily's car at Pete's shop while she was supposedly at her studio. Unaccounted time. A reason to have Pete come to our house with the keys. "Jake, I think your wife is having an affair." The words hung in the air between us like a toxic cloud. Part of me wanted to defend Emily, to insist Pete was wrong. But the security footage had already shown me how easily my wife could lie. "Any idea who?" Pete hesitated. "I've seen her around town with Grant Hoffman a few times. Coffee, lunch, could be business, but..." Grant Hoffman. Real estate developer, city council member, the kind of smooth operator who wore $1,000 suits and smiled like a politician. He'd hired my company to install security systems in several of his properties. Professional, charming, and exactly the type of man Emily would find attractive. "Business," I repeated. "Maybe. Or maybe she needed me out of the picture because I might see something I shouldn't." I thought about Emily's reaction when she saw me in the living room. The immediate accusation, the detailed story about Pete's supposed threats. She'd been ready with her explanation, prepared for my questions. "She planned this," I said. "That's what I'm thinking. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" I looked around Pete's shop, the organized chaos of a man who built his life with his hands, who earned every dollar through honest work. Emily's lies were destroying him, and I was the only one who could stop it. I'm going to get proof. The next morning, Emily announced she was going to her studio to catch up on work after yesterday's trauma. I watched her drive away in her perfectly functioning car, then made some calls. My first stop was Hoffman Properties downtown. Grant's office occupied the top floor of a renovated Victorian mansion, all exposed brick and modern furniture. His secretary, a young woman with expensive highlights, smiled professionally. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hoffman is in meetings all day. Can I schedule you for next week?" "Actually, I'm here about the security system for the Riverside project. There's been a malfunction." Grant appeared in his office doorway within 30 seconds, looking concerned. "Jake, good to see you. What kind of malfunction?" He was smooth, I'd give him that. Firm handshake, direct eye contact, the kind of confidence that came from never having to fix his own car or unclog his own drains. Motion sensors are giving false readings. I need to check the system logs, see if there's been any unauthorized access. Of course, whatever you need. I spent an hour at the Riverside property, a luxury condo development Grant was marketing to young professionals. The security system was working perfectly, but it gave me time to think. Emily's studio was 6 blocks away. I drove past Patterson Interior Design twice before parking across the street. Emily's car sat in the small lot behind the building, but the studio looked dark. According to the sign on the door, business hours were 9 to 5. It was barely noon. The building had 4 units: Emily's studio, a lawyer's office, an accountant, and a massage therapist. I walked around back and found the service entrance unlocked. Emily's studio was empty. Her laptop sat closed on the reception desk, appointment book open to today's date. 3 client meetings scheduled, all crossed out in red ink, canceled. I was studying the appointment book when I heard voices in the hallway. Emily's laugh, low and intimate, followed by a man's deeper chuckle. I stepped into the supply closet just as the studio door opened. "Can't keep doing this," Emily was saying. "Jake's getting suspicious." "About what? You've been careful." Grant's voice, unmistakable. "The Pete thing was supposed to solve our problem, but now Jake's asking questions." "Relax. There's no way he can connect me to anything. As far as anyone knows, we're just business associates." "Business associates don't usually spend 3 hours in bed on Tuesday afternoons?" Grant laughed. "Fair point. But Emily, framing Pete was brilliant. Jake trusts him completely. With Pete out of the picture, there's no one left who might see us together." "Except Pete's not out of the picture. The police released him." "Temporarily. We just need to be patient, let the rumors do their work. Pete's reputation is already damaged. A few more whispers about his temper, maybe another incident." "Another incident?" "Nothing dramatic. Maybe Pete gets angry at a customer, makes a scene, or someone sees him driving erratically, reports him for road rage. Small things that build a pattern." Emily was quiet for a moment. "You're talking about destroying an innocent man's life." "I'm talking about protecting what we have. Emily, in 6 months, you'll be divorced, and we can be together openly. Pete Morrison is collateral damage." "And Jake?" "What about him? He'll move on, find someone more his speed. You two never belonged together anyway." I pressed my back against the closet wall, fighting the urge to burst out and confront them. But I needed more than accusations. I needed proof that would hold up in court, evidence that would expose both their affair and Emily's false accusation against Pete. "I should get back home," Emily said. "Jake will expect me to be traumatized for at least another day or 2. "You're a hell of an actress." "I'm a hell of a lot of things." They left together, and I waited 10 minutes before emerging from the closet. My marriage was over. That much was clear. But Emily and Grant had made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated how far I'd go to protect my friend. The next week passed in a blur of careful surveillance and growing anger. Emily maintained her victim routine at home while sneaking away for afternoon encounters with Grant. I documented everything: photos of them entering hotels, recordings of phone conversations, credit card receipts for romantic dinners charged to her business account. But the evidence that would clear Pete's name remained elusive. I was installing a security upgrade at Millfield General Hospital when inspiration struck. The hospital's system included audio recording in all common areas, a liability protection measure that captured everything from patient complaints to staff conversations. If I could prove Emily was lying about the home invasion, I could expose her false accusation. But I needed her to contradict her own story, preferably in a way that couldn't be explained away. The opportunity came sooner than expected. "Jake, we need to talk." Emily cornered me in the kitchen Thursday evening, her face serious. "I've been thinking about Pete." "What about him?" Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it wasn't him who broke in. I kept my expression neutral. "What makes you say that?" "I've been having nightmares, replaying that afternoon over and over. Some of the details are getting fuzzy. The man was wearing a mask. I might have been mistaken about his identity." Emily was trying to walk back her accusation, probably on Grant's advice. If Pete was cleared of wrongdoing, the gossip would die down, and they could resume their affair without fear of discovery. "You seemed pretty certain at the time." "I was scared, traumatized. People make mistakes when they're in shock." "So you want to tell the police you were wrong?" Emily hesitated. "I'm thinking about it. But Jake, what if the real attacker is still out there? What if he comes back?" This was my opening. "Maybe we should upgrade our security system, add more cameras, better audio recording." "Would that make you feel safer?" Emily nodded eagerly. "Much safer." I spent the weekend installing military-grade surveillance equipment throughout our house. Cameras in every room, audio pickups sensitive enough to capture whispered conversations, motion detectors that would track movement to the inch. "This seems like overkill," Emily observed, watching me mount a camera in the living room. "After what happened to you, I'm not taking any chances." What Emily didn't know was that the new system transmitted everything to a secure server in my office. Every conversation, every phone call, every moment of her deception would be recorded and stored. I didn't have to wait long. Monday afternoon, Emily called Grant from our kitchen. "The coast is clear. Jake's at a job site until 6. I'll be right over." "Grant, are you sure this is smart? All these new cameras." "Emily, relax. Jake installed them to catch burglars, not to spy on his own wife. Besides, we'll be in the bedroom. He wouldn't put cameras there." Grant was right about the bedroom, but wrong about the hallway, the stairs, and the living room where they'd have to pass to get upstairs. 20 minutes later, Grant's BMW pulled into my driveway. I watched the live feed on my phone from 3 miles away as he let himself in through the back door with a key Emily had obviously given him. They were careful to avoid the main cameras, but the motion sensors tracked their path through the house. Audio pickups caught fragments of conversation, including Grant's comment about getting rid of the husband problem permanently. That phrase made my stomach turn. Were they planning something worse than divorce? I left my job site early and drove home, parking 2 blocks away. The BMW was still in my driveway, bold as brass. Grant Hoffman, pillar of the community, having an affair in my house while my wife played victim to the entire town. Instead of confronting them, I waited. Patience was key. I needed them to incriminate themselves completely before making my move. The opportunity came Wednesday evening when Emily announced she was having dinner with her business partner Miranda. "Girls' night," she said, kissing my cheek. "We're going to Rossetti's, then maybe a movie. Don't wait up." Rossetti's was an upscale Italian place downtown, the kind of restaurant that required reservations and charged $30 for pasta. I called ahead. "Reservation for Patterson?" "No, sir. We don't have anything under that name tonight." Emily was lying again. I followed her car downtown, staying well back in traffic. Instead of turning toward Rossetti's, she headed for Grant's neighborhood, the historic district where old money lived behind iron gates and manicured lawns. Grant's house was a restored colonial mansion with circular driveway and fountain. Very impressive, very expensive, very much the kind of place Emily aspired to live. I parked across the street and settled in to wait. Through Grant's front windows, I could see them moving around the living room, Emily in a red dress I'd never seen before, Grant in casual clothes. They looked comfortable together, familiar. This wasn't a new relationship. My phone buzzed. Text message from Emily. "Having wonderful time with Miranda. Home late. Love you." The casual cruelty of it hit me like a slap. She was lying to my face while playing house with her lover, using my best friend as a scapegoat for her deception. But Emily had made another mistake. Grant's house was one of the properties where I'd installed security systems. I still had the master access codes. I waited until they moved to what I assumed was the bedroom, then slipped around to Grant's backyard. The security panel was hidden behind decorative shutters, exactly where I'd mounted it 6 months ago. The system was still using default passwords, typical for a man who thought he was smarter than everyone else. Grant's cameras showed Emily and him in the kitchen, sharing wine and intimate conversation. The audio was crystal clear. "Tired of sneaking around," Emily was saying. "When are we going to tell Jake?" "Soon, but we need to be strategic about it. Jake's not the type to just walk away quietly." "What do you mean?" "I mean he's going to want to know why you're leaving, and he's not going to like the answer. Men like Jake, blue-collar guys, they can get violent when their pride is hurt." "Jake's not violent." "Emily, you accused his best friend of attacking you. If Jake ever finds out that was a lie, what do you think he'll do?" Emily was quiet for a long moment. "You're right. We need to be careful. More than careful. We need Jake out of the picture completely." "What are you suggesting?" Grant moved closer to Emily, lowering his voice. "There are ways to handle problems like this. Permanent ways." The implication was clear, and it chilled me to the bone. Grant wasn't just talking about divorce. He was talking about eliminating me entirely. I'd heard enough. Time to turn the tables. I spent Thursday planning my counterattack. Emily and Grant thought they were playing chess while I played checkers, but they'd underestimated their opponent. I might be blue-collar, but I wasn't stupid. The plan was simple. Give them enough rope to hang themselves. Friday morning, I told Emily I'd be out of town for the weekend, installing a security system at a hotel in Albany. Business trip, good money, sorry for the short notice. "That's fine," Emily said, barely looking up from her coffee. "I'll probably spend time with Miranda, maybe catch up on some reading." "Reading. Right." I drove to Albany, checked into the hotel, and made sure to use my credit card for everything, meals, parking, incidentals, I needed a solid alibi for what came next. Then I drove back to Millfield. The beauty of running a security company was access to equipment most people couldn't afford. Parabolic microphones, night vision cameras, GPS tracking devices, all legal to own, all useful for gathering evidence. I spent Friday night in Pete's shop, setting up surveillance gear and explaining my plan. "This is risky," Pete said, studying the photos I'd taken of Emily and Grant. "If they're talking about hurting you, they're not going to hurt me. They're going to incriminate themselves. How can you be sure? Because I'm going to give them exactly what they want, a chance to get rid of me permanently." Saturday evening, I called Emily from my hotel room in Albany. "Hey, honey, how's your weekend going?" "Quiet. Miranda and I went shopping, had lunch. Nothing exciting." Another lie. My tracking device showed Emily's car had been parked at Grant's house since noon. "Listen, I've got some bad news. The hotel job is more complicated than expected. I'm going to have to stay through Monday, maybe Tuesday." "Oh," Emily tried to sound disappointed. "Well, these things happen." "I'm sorry. I know you were looking forward to me coming home." "It's fine, Jake, really. Focus on work." "I love you." "Love you too." The words tasted like ashes in my mouth. Sunday morning, I drove back to Millfield and met Pete at his shop. The surveillance equipment was ready, positioned to capture everything that happened at my house. "You sure about this?" Pete asked. "I'm sure. Emily and Grant think they're in control, but they're about to walk into a trap." At noon, I called Emily again. "Bad news. The client wants to add more cameras to the system. I'm going to be stuck here until Wednesday at least." "Wednesday? Jake, that's 4 more days." "I know. I'm frustrated too. But this contract could set us up for the year." "Well, I guess I'll find ways to keep busy." "Maybe you could stay at your mother's. I don't like the idea of you alone in the house, especially after what happened with Pete." "I'll be fine. Besides, we have all those new security cameras now." "True. Just promise me you'll be careful." "I promise." After hanging up, I drove to a parking spot 3 blocks from my house and waited. If Emily and Grant were planning something, they'd make their move now that they believed I was safely out of town. I didn't have to wait long. At 2 p.m., Grant's BMW pulled into my driveway. He and Emily unloaded several boxes from the trunk, carrying them into the house through the back door. My security cameras captured everything. They spent the afternoon in my living room, going through papers and documents. Emily had a laptop open, typing furiously. Grant was on his phone, making calls and taking notes. At 4 p.m., they moved to the kitchen. The audio pickups caught their conversation clearly. "Insurance policy is worth $500,000, Emily was saying. Plus the house, the business, his equipment. We're looking at close to $1 million. "And you're sure about the beneficiary information?" "I'm his wife. Everything comes to me automatically." "What about his family? Parents, siblings?" "Jake's parents are gone. He has a sister in California, but they barely talk. She won't contest anything." Grant nodded. "Good. Clean and simple. When do we do it?" "Tonight. I've got everything we need in the car." My hands were shaking as I listened to them plan to get rid of me. These weren't just unfaithful partners. They were heartless schemers preparing to cash in on my life insurance. But I had them exactly where I wanted them. At 6 p.m., Emily called me at the hotel. "Jake, I'm worried about something." "What's wrong?" "I keep hearing noises outside the house, like someone's watching me." "Maybe you should call the police." "I don't want to seem paranoid. But Jake, what if it's him? What if Pete is stalking me?" The setup was elegant in its simplicity. Emily would claim Pete had broken in again, this time to hurt her in revenge for her accusation. In the struggle, I would be accidentally harmed, perhaps fatally. When I returned home unexpectedly to protect my wife, Pete would be blamed for my demise, Emily would inherit everything, and she and Grant would ride off into the sunset as a wealthy grieving widow and her supportive new boyfriend. "Emily, get out of the house right now. Go to your mother's." "I can't. What if he follows me?" "Jake, I think you need to come home. I'm 4 hours away. Please, I'm scared." The fear in her voice was completely convincing. If I hadn't known better, I'd have believed every word. "Okay, I'm leaving now. Call the police and tell them you're afraid Pete might try something. Ask them to do extra patrols." "Thank you. Drive carefully." "I will. Emily, I love you." "I love you too, Jake. Hurry home." I hung up and immediately called Detective McNally. "McNally. Detective, it's Jake Patterson. I think my wife is in danger." "What kind of danger?" "She's convinced Pete Morrison is stalking her, planning to hurt her. I'm driving back from Albany now, but I won't be there for hours." "We'll send a unit to check on her." Thank you. And Detective, I think you should know. I recovered some footage from my security cameras. From the day Emily was attacked. McNally was quiet for a moment. What kind of footage? The kind that shows exactly what happened that afternoon. I'll bring it to the station tomorrow. Jake, if you have evidence relevant to this case, I'll have it for you tomorrow. Right now, I just want to make sure my wife is safe. After hanging up, I drove to the surveillance post Pete had set up in the abandoned building across from my house. The equipment was recording everything: video, audio, digital timestamps that would prove exactly when events occurred. They're really going to try to hurt you? Pete asked. They're going to try, but we'll be ready. At 9 p.m., Grant's BMW left my driveway. He returned an hour later with a van I didn't recognize. 2 other men got out, rough-looking guys who clearly weren't real estate developers. Emily met them at the back door, gesturing urgently. Even from a distance, I could see she was agitated, probably having second thoughts about what they were planning. But it was too late to back out now. At 10:30, my phone rang. Emily crying hysterically. Jake, he's here. Pete's trying to break in. I can hear him outside. Where are you? Locked in the bedroom. Jake, I think he has a weapon. The police are on their way. I'm 20 minutes out. Hurry. I hung up and called McNally again. Detective, I'm almost home. Emily says Pete is trying to break in. Units are already en route. Jake, stay away from the house until we secure the scene. My wife is in there, and we'll get her out safely. But I don't need you getting hurt too. I parked 2 blocks away and ran toward my house on foot. Police cars were already surrounding the property, officers taking positions behind cover. McNally spotted me approaching. Jake, I told you to stay back. What's the situation? We've got movement inside the house, but no sign of Pete Morrison. His truck isn't here, and he's not answering his phone. Maybe he parked somewhere else. McNally gave me a sharp look. Maybe, or maybe something else is going on here. That's when the first shot rang out. The gunshot came from inside my house, followed by Emily's scream. McNally immediately radioed for backup and ordered his officers to surround the building. We've got shots fired. Possible hostage situation. He barked into his radio. I want this street cleared and SWAT on standby. But I knew the truth. Grant and his hired muscle were staging a home invasion, planning to eliminate me when I heroically tried to rescue Emily. The gunshot was part of the performance, that meant to add urgency to the situation. They'd made one critical error. I wasn't supposed to arrive for another 10 minutes. Detective, I need to tell you something, I said, pulling out my phone. I've been recording everything. McNally stared at me. What do you mean, recording everything? I showed him the live feed from my security cameras. On the screen, Emily was in the living room with Grant and 2 strangers. She was pointing toward the front door, clearly giving instructions. Your wife is working with the intruders? My wife staged the original break-in to frame Pete Morrison. She's been having an affair with Grant Hoffman, and they've been planning to get rid of me for the insurance money. McNally's face went through several expressions before settling on grim understanding. How long have you known? Long enough to gather evidence. Detective, Pete Morrison is innocent. He's been set up from the beginning. Another gunshot echoed from the house, followed by more screaming. But now I could see on the security feed that Emily was doing the screaming while standing safely in the kitchen, well away from any actual danger. This is all performance, I explained. They're creating a crime scene that will justify my demise when I try to rescue Emily. McNally studied the phone screen, watching Grant direct his accomplices around my living room. Jake, this is attempted homicide. We need to end this now. Wait, let me call Emily first. I want her confession on record. I dialed Emily's number, putting the phone on speaker so McNally could hear. Jake, thank God. Where are you? I'm outside. Emily, are you hurt? He shot at me. Pete's completely lost his mind. Pete's not there, Emily. Silence. What do you mean? I mean, Pete Morrison is at the police station, giving a statement about your affair with Grant Hoffman. We know about everything. The staged break-in, the insurance fraud, the plan to get rid of me. More silence, longer this time. Jake, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm trapped in here with a dangerous man who wants to hurt us both. Emily, I can see you on the security cameras. You're standing in the kitchen with Grant and 2 other men planning my murder. The line went quiet, except for muffled voices in the background. Then Grant came on the phone. Jake, you always were too smart for your own good. Grant, nice to finally talk directly. This doesn't have to end badly. Walk away, let Emily go, and we can work something out. What kind of something? Divorce. Clean split. You keep the business, Emily keeps the house. No one gets hurt. McNally was recording everything on his own phone, gesturing for me to keep Grant talking. What about Pete? You've destroyed his reputation, cost him his business. Collateral damage. Pete will be fine. And what about the insurance fraud? Were you really planning to eliminate me? Grant laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. Jake, you're a small-town security installer married to a woman who deserves better. Emily's going to be with me whether you're alive or not. The only question is whether you make it easy or hard. I choose hard. Wrong answer. The line went silent, and on the security feed I watched Grant gesture to his accomplices. They moved toward the front and back doors, weapons visible. McNally immediately radioed his officers. Suspects are armed and moving to exit the building. Take them down. What happened next was chaos. Grant's men burst through both doors simultaneously, expecting to catch police officers off guard. Instead, they ran straight into a coordinated response from cops who knew exactly where they were and what they were carrying. The first man, coming through the back door, dropped his weapon and surrendered immediately when he saw 3 officers with guns drawn. The second man tried to run but was tackled in my front yard. Grant himself appeared in the living room doorway, hands raised, shouting that he was an innocent victim. Don't shoot, I'm not armed. These men forced their way in. But McNally had heard our entire phone conversation. Grant Hoffman, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and filing false police reports. Emily tried the same tactic, claiming she was a victim of Grant's manipulation. But the security footage told a different story, showing her active participation in planning my demise. Emily Patterson, you're also under arrest. As McNally's officers handcuffed my wife and her lover, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that Pete would be cleared, that the truth was finally out. Sadness that my marriage had ended in such spectacular betrayal. Jake. Emily looked at me as they led her toward the patrol car. I never meant for it to go this far. You meant every bit of it, I replied. You just didn't expect to get caught. Pete arrived as the last police car was pulling away, his face a mixture of concern and confusion. Jake, what the heck happened here? McNally called and said I needed to come give a statement, that I was cleared of all charges. I explained everything. Emily's affair, the staged break-in, the insurance fraud scheme, the attempted murder plot. Pete listened in stunned silence. She really tried to frame me for attacking her. She really did. And she would have let you take the blame for my murder, too, if they'd succeeded. Pete shook his head. 20 years I've known you both. I fixed her car, came to your barbecues, treated her like family, and she was willing to destroy my life for her boyfriend. Some people have no conscience. What happens now? I looked at my house. Crime scene tape across the doors, evidence markers scattered across the lawn, my marriage and my life as I knew it officially over. Now we rebuild. The trials were swift and decisive. Emily pleaded guilty to filing false police reports and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud in exchange for a reduced sentence. Grant and his accomplices faced more serious charges: conspiracy to commit murder, attempted homicide, racketeering. Pete's reputation was fully restored, his business thriving again. The story of his false accusation and vindication had made him something of a local hero, the honest mechanic wrongly accused by a scheming socialite. My security company expanded rapidly. Apparently, there was significant demand for surveillance systems from people who'd heard about my case and wanted protection from their own potentially treacherous spouses. Emily's interior design business collapsed, her clients fleeing when the scandal broke. Her mother, Joan, stopped speaking to me entirely, convinced I'd somehow orchestrated Emily's downfall through my lower-class influence. Grant lost everything: his business, his political connections, his reputation. The golden boy of Millfield was revealed as a ruthless schemer willing to do anything for money and social status. I kept the house but sold most of the furniture. Too many memories of Emily's deception, there too many reminders of how blind I'd been to what was happening under my own roof. The security cameras stayed, though. After everything I'd been through, a little paranoia seemed like reasonable caution. On a warm spring evening, Pete and I sat on my back deck, drinking coffee and watching the sunset. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been during the chaos of Emily's schemes. Any regrets? Pete asked. I thought about it. About Emily? No. About not seeing through her lies sooner? Maybe. You trusted your wife. That's not a character flaw. It almost got both of us eliminated. But it didn't, and now Emily and Grant are paying the price for their choices. Pete was right. Justice had been served, the truth had come out, and the innocent had been vindicated. In the end, that was all anyone could ask for. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Mr. Patterson, I heard about your security company from a friend. My husband has been acting suspicious lately, and I think he might be cheating. Can you help? I showed the message to Pete, who grinned. Looks like business is booming. Looks like it. I typed back, Ma'am, I specialize in uncovering the truth. When would you like to meet? Because in a world full of liars and cheaters, someone had to be watching. Someone had to be ready to expose the truth when the performance finally ended. And I was very, very good at watching.